They look like the perfect rides, sleek, powerful, and backed by trusted Japanese engineering. But just 1 year in, thousands of owners are already jumping ship. From disappointing performance to painful resale value, these are the 7 Japanese motorcycles riders seriously regret buying in 2025. Let's count them down. Number 7. Honda Rebel 500. It is marketed as the ideal cruiser for first-time riders. Lightweight, approachable, and modestly priced, the Rebel 500 seems like a no-brainer for anyone looking to dip their toes into motorcycle ownership. Its low seat height, sleek minimalist styling, and tame engine make it look like a gateway to the open road, but that early charm tends to fade quickly. At the heart of the Rebel is a 471 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled parallel twin engine producing 45 horsepower and 32 pound-feet of torque. The bike weighs approximately 416 pounds fully fueled, making it manageable for most new riders. It rides on 41mm conventional front forks and twin rear shock absorbers, both of which offer limited travel and soft damping, leading to complaints about bottoming out over bumps, especially when riding 2-up. Braking is handled by a 296mm front disc with a twin-piston caliper and a 240mm rear disc backed by a standard anti-lock braking system. Despite this setup, many experienced riders find the braking feel vague. For a starting price of $6,499, the hardware feels basic and performance expectations go unmet quickly. On highways, the Rebel struggles. Acceleration tapers off fast, making overtaking difficult and riding against headwinds a draining task. Beyond 65 miles per hour, vibrations creep through the bars and foot pegs, turning long-distance travel into a test of patience. What began as a promising starter bike ends up feeling underpowered, especially when trying to keep pace with traffic or merge with confidence. It's not that the Rebel is unsafe, but it is undeniably limiting. The promise of open road freedom is quickly boxed into city blocks and back roads. Comfort presents another ongoing issue. The factory seat is narrow and thin, with padding that compresses quickly under body weight. It also slopes slightly backward, forcing riders into a scooped, slouched position that becomes fatiguing in under an hour. Taller or heavier riders especially find the mid-mounted foot pegs too tight for true cruising posture, while the narrow bars restrict arm room. These quirks don't just affect ride quality, they sour the ownership experience. What initially felt ergonomically neutral soon begins to feel like a design afterthought, especially on rides over 30 miles. Fuel capacity is another hidden constraint, with a 3-gallon tank and real-world fuel efficiency dropping below 60 miles per gallon when pushed. Fuel stops become frustratingly frequent. The limited range interrupts flow, cutting scenic rides short and forcing route planning around gas stations. Instead of empowering longer journeys, the Rebel imposes limits, both literal and psychological, on what your ride can be. After only 12 months, many owners start eyeing an upgrade. The second-hand market becomes flooded with lightly used Rebels, and dealers have trouble moving them. With such a high supply of beginner bikes, resale values plummet. Riders who bought new find themselves losing thousands, sometimes up to half their investment, in the span of a single riding season. The market recognizes the Rebel for what it is: an entry ticket, not a keeper. That label sticks hard, driving private buyers to negotiate aggressively or simply walk away. It's not a bad bike, but it's one that outlives its usefulness fast. If the Rebel left you wanting more, wait until you see the next bike on the list. A sport model that looks fast on paper but leaves riders frustrated on the road. Before we hit number 6, check the description. We've listed the gear we trust for every ride. Number 6. Kawasaki Ninja 650. For years, the Ninja 650 has been promoted as the ultimate entry-level sport bike for riders who want the styling of a super sport without the punishing ergonomics or intimidating power. At first glance, it offers a sleek and aerodynamic profile, reasonable performance specs, and a price tag that doesn't scare off new buyers. But once the initial excitement wears off, many owners find themselves wishing they had spent their money elsewhere. 1 year into ownership, the Ninja 650 often reveals itself as a compromise, neither thrilling enough for experienced riders nor comfortable enough for everyday use. At its core, the bike runs on a 649 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine, producing 67 horsepower and 48 pound-feet of torque. It weighs approximately 431 pounds fully fueled, which makes it manageable in city traffic and at low speeds. Braking is handled by dual 280mm front discs with 2 piston calipers and a single disc at the rear, supported by a standard anti-lock braking system. The suspension setup includes a non-adjustable telescopic fork in the front and a horizontal backlink rear shock that is preload adjustable. While these components function adequately for commuting, they fall short under spirited riding. For a starting price of $8,399, many riders expect more in terms of hardware, especially in 2025's highly competitive market. The engine's power band is smooth, but too smooth. Its linear delivery lacks drama, bite, or surge, which makes the ride feel flat. Riders hoping for the signature Ninja thrill will be disappointed when acceleration feels more like a gradual build than a sudden rush. Once you hit higher speeds, the motor begins to buzz noticeably, and the vibrations don't stay isolated. They creep into the handlebars, the seat, and the pegs, turning highway rides into exercises in endurance. It's not a matter of raw power, it's the way the bike hides what it has behind a wall of numbness. Handling, too, feels muted. The Ninja 650 doesn't dive into corners the way sport bikes are supposed to. The soft, comfort-oriented suspension delivers an overly relaxed ride, and that forgiveness becomes a liability when the pace quickens. Riders trying to push the bike through twisty roads often report a lack of feedback from the front end and a vague, disconnected feeling mid-turn. Instead of confidence, you get hesitation. Instead of engagement, you get uncertainty. That upright geometry, meant to keep riders comfortable, ends up dulling the machine's sporting potential. Then there's the tech, or lack thereof. In a world where entry-level motorcycles now come with selectable ride modes, traction control, and full-color TFT displays, the Ninja 650 is stuck in the past. Its bare-bones digital dash delivers only basic information, and there's no rider aid beyond the anti-lock braking system. It's a missed opportunity. Riders crave not just performance, but customization, interaction, and refinement. Yet this bike offers none of those. Even the exhaust note is sterile, giving off a soft drone rather than a growl or bark. The result is a ride that feels emotionally distant. Sport bike disappointment is one thing, but the next adventure bike was supposed to conquer trails and traffic. Instead, it's conquering rider patience. Quick break. If you're appreciating the brutal honesty in this countdown, show us some love. We dig through forums, reviews, and resale data so you don't get burned. Hit subscribe so your next bike isn't your next regret. Number 5. Suzuki V-Strom 800DE. It entered the market with serious buzz. Billed as Suzuki's next great middleweight adventure machine, the 800DE had all the right specs on paper: aggressive styling, a newly developed engine platform, and off-road aspirations made it look like a serious threat to the competition. Riders expected it to be the versatile two-wheeled explorer that could handle anything from gravel roads to long-distance highway runs. But fast forward 1 year, and a growing number of owners are reporting issues they never expected to face with a bike carrying the V-Strom name. Underneath the rugged exterior sits a 776 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine pushing 83 horsepower and 57 pound-feet of torque. The 800DE weighs in at 493 pounds fully fueled and features a suspension system built around 43mm Showa inverted front forks and a rear monoshock with generous travel. Braking is handled by dual 270mm front discs with axial calipers and a single rear disc, paired with a standard anti-lock braking system. On paper, these specs sound capable, especially for a starting price of $11,349. But in execution, the package feels mismatched, especially when pushed off pavement. The engine's output sounds respectable, but the power delivery tells a different story. Many riders report a throttle response that's twitchy and inconsistent, particularly in the lower rev range. Whether you're navigating tight city corners or creeping through rutted trails, the jerkiness becomes hard to ignore. The sensation is amplified during slow-speed maneuvers where precision is critical. Instead of building confidence, the engine's abrupt reactions often force riders to second-guess throttle inputs. making the 800DE feel more like a liability than a companion on off-road journeys. And then there's the weight. While Suzuki shaved mass from the frame and designed the bike to look slim, that doesn't translate to balance. The center of gravity sits high, and at 493 pounds wet, the bike feels top-heavy, especially in technical situations. Riders have reported numerous low-speed tip-overs, awkward parking lot handling, and sketchy U-turns. What should be a controllable adventure machine behaves more like a skittish commuter once terrain or traction gets complicated. It's an unnerving reality for riders expecting go-anywhere stability. Suspension tuning only adds to the frustration. Though the bike is equipped with high-spec Showa components, their performance doesn't align with the adventure promise. The front and rear setup delivers an odd contradiction: harshness over minor road imperfections and softness when things truly get rough. On washboard gravel or hard-packed dirt, the ride feels punishing. But when hitting deeper ruts, potholes, or mild jumps, the suspension gets overwhelmed. It's a tuning problem that undermines both on-road comfort and off-road capability. Braking doesn't save the experience either. While the hardware is technically sound, the feedback is vague, and the bite needed for steep descents or sketchy surfaces is noticeably absent. One of the most hyped features, the quick shifter, also falls flat. Suzuki marketed it as a premium addition to match the likes of Yamaha and KTM, but in practice it's clunky, inconsistent, and barely refined. Shifting from second to third often feels forced, and downshifts under load lack the smoothness that riders expect in this price bracket. If adventure bikes aren't immune to regret, neither are lightweight standards. This next model proves even small bikes can carry big frustrations. Number 4. Yamaha MT-03. At first glance, the MT-03 looks like a sharp and aggressive machine with plenty of attitude. Marketed as a lightweight naked sport bike ideal for beginners, it boasts a low price tag and flashy Street Fighter styling that turns heads. For newer riders looking to get into motorcycling without breaking the bank, it seems like a fantastic deal. But after just 1 year of ownership, many buyers report that the MT-03 feels less like a stepping stone and more like a dead end. For all its urban appeal, it fails to deliver the substance riders need to grow, explore, and enjoy the sport long term. Powering the MT-03 is a 321 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled parallel twin engine. It produces 42 horsepower and 21 pound-feet of torque. While this output is enough for casual city riding and learning the basics, it quickly becomes limiting once riders try to venture onto highways or more spirited back roads. At speeds above 65 miles per hour, the bike starts to feel twitchy, especially in crosswinds. The lack of stability and noticeable engine buzz through the bars makes high-speed rides uncomfortable and, in some cases, even intimidating for newer riders. The starting price of the MT-03 is $5,499, which initially sounds like a steal until ownership reality kicks in. When it comes to core components, the MT-03 weighs just 373 pounds wet, which makes it incredibly manageable for beginners, but also contributes to its lack of highway stability. Suspension duties are handled by 37mm inverted front forks and a preload adjustable rear shock. However, both ends are tuned very softly, resulting in vague feedback and limited support over bumps or during aggressive cornering. Braking is managed by a single 298mm front disc with a 2-piston caliper and a 220mm rear disc with a single piston caliper. While anti-lock braking system is included, the overall braking performance is best described as adequate, with some riders noting a lack of initial bite and spongy lever feel under pressure. The riding experience suffers further due to the ergonomics. The seat is narrow and firm, making it uncomfortable for longer rides. Riders with broader frames or longer legs often complain of feeling cramped, especially when holding the tank through tighter turns. The upright handlebars are beginner-friendly, but don't offer much in terms of leverage at higher speeds. All of this contributes to a ride quality that is better suited for 10-minute commutes than weekend journeys. As a learning tool, it serves its role briefly, but as a long-term companion, it starts to come up short. In terms of technology, the MT-03 falls behind its competition. The digital instrument cluster, while functional, is basic and dated. There is no traction control, no ride modes, and no smartphone integration. In a time when entry-level bikes are starting to offer more advanced features as standard, Yamaha's decision to keep things minimal starts to feel like a drawback rather than a benefit. Riders hoping to grow into their machine are often left wanting more, both in performance and amenities. You'd think a retro-styled naked bike would age well, but the next model on the list shows that timeless looks don't always guarantee long-term satisfaction. Still with us? That means you care about making the right motorcycle choice, and so do we. No sugarcoating, no fluff, just the facts. So if this is saving you time or thousands of dollars, subscribe. We've got more coming. Number 3. Kawasaki Z900RS. This bike has all the ingredients of a motorcycle classic: retro styling, a growling inline 4 engine, and just enough modern tech to appeal to a wide range of riders. But that initial allure often fades quickly. After just 1 year of ownership, many riders find themselves disappointed, citing issues that affect everything from comfort to resale value. Powering the Z900RS is a 948 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled inline 4 engine, making 111 horsepower and 72 pound-feet of torque. It weighs approximately 473 pounds wet and features a suspension setup with fully adjustable 41mm inverted front forks and a horizontal backlink rear shock with preload and rebound adjustability. Braking is managed by dual 300mm front discs with radial mount monoblock calipers and a single 267mm disc at the rear. Anti-lock braking system is standard, though brake feel has been called vague by more experienced riders. For a bike starting at $12,399, the overall chassis setup feels mismatched, offering neither true comfort nor razor-sharp sport performance. The engine's delivery is smooth and torquey, and the exhaust note has real presence, but that initial thrill wears thin during daily riding. Long stretches at consistent speeds produce a droning tone that many riders find tiring. Combine that with real-world fuel economy dropping below 40 miles per gallon under spirited use, and the Z900RS starts to feel less practical than it looks. What seemed like a perfect blend of character and usability begins showing cracks on longer rides or fuel-limited trips. Comfort is another mixed bag. The neutral ergonomics look inviting, but execution falters in the real world. The seat height, just over 32 inches, makes it tough for shorter riders to plant their feet. The wide handlebars and slightly rearward pegs create a setup that feels top-heavy during low-speed maneuvers, especially in traffic or parking lots. The seat, while stylish, becomes firm and unforgiving in under an hour. These ergonomic compromises chip away at the bike's image as an easygoing daily standard and make it harder to justify as a long-distance machine. The paint and trim quality also raise concerns. While initial showroom impressions are strong, real-world exposure tells a different story. Owners have reported premature wear on the paint, fading of the clear coat, and corrosion or pitting on chrome surfaces after minimal exposure to rain or road grime. This is especially frustrating for riders who chose the Z900RS specifically for its vintage aesthetic. When a bike marketed on look starts showing age early, the value proposition starts collapsing. That collapse shows most clearly in the resale market. The Z900RS lives in a stylistic no man's land, too sporty for cruiser fans, too nostalgic for performance seekers. As a result, demand stays tepid. Used listings often linger without serious offers, especially if the bike has any cosmetic wear or minor upgrades. Dealerships offer lowball trade-ins, citing limited demand, and private buyers tend to steer toward more versatile platforms like the MT-09 or the CB1000R. Owners often lose thousands within the first 12 months with little hope of recovering value. The Z900RS promises timeless styling with a punch of modern performance. But for many, the mismatch in ride quality, daily livability, and resale potential turns the dream of retro motorcycling into a very modern kind of disappointment. And now we're stepping into even heavier territory. Bikes that promise power and prestige only to leave owners sore, frustrated, and financially drained. Number 2. Suzuki GSX-S1000GT. 1000GT. At first glance, the GSX-S1000GT Plus looks like the total package for riders who want sport bike performance with long-distance touring comfort. It carries sharp styling, angular lines, and a futuristic aesthetic that sets it apart from more conservative sport tourers. For those searching for a machine that can attack corners one day and chew up highway miles the next, this bike initially seems like the answer. But by the time the first riding season ends, many owners start to see cracks in the experience. Powering the GT Plus is a 998 cubic centimeter inline-4 engine derived from the older GSX-R platform. It puts out 150 horsepower and 106 pound-feet of torque. The bike weighs 526 pounds, fully fueled, and uses fully adjustable 43mm front forks and a link-type rear shock for suspension. Braking is managed by dual 310mm front discs with 4-piston Brembo calipers and a single 240mm rear disc. Anti-lock braking system is standard. For a starting price of $13,149, the performance figures look strong on paper, but the on-road execution tells a different story. The chassis feels stiff and disconnected, especially at low speeds, and throttle transitions are clunky. What should be a confidence-inspiring machine instead comes off twitchy and unsettled in everyday use. That disconnect extends to comfort. While the engine delivers strong acceleration, the suspension tuning leans too far into the sport category. Even after adjusting preload and rebound, many riders report that the ride remains harsh over imperfect roads. Add a passenger or loaded luggage and it becomes even less forgiving. The seat doesn't help matters. It's firm, flat, and quickly becomes uncomfortable on longer rides. Suzuki may have chased performance, but they did so at the expense of ride quality. Heat management is another persistent issue. The inline-4 generates noticeable engine warmth at low speeds, especially during summer or in heavy traffic. Riders in hot weather states like Arizona and Texas frequently report feeling roasted at stoplights. There's limited wind deflection around the legs, and the fairing channels warm air directly onto the rider's thighs. For a machine marketed as a long-haul sport tourer, this becomes more than a nuisance. It's a real barrier to everyday comfort. And while the tech package seems impressive on paper, featuring a full-color TFT display, ride modes, traction control, and Bluetooth integration, the real-world experience is underwhelming. Many users report laggy menus, inconsistent touchscreen response, and frequent Bluetooth connection issues. Music playback randomly pauses. Navigation apps freeze. Even the basic rider interface occasionally suffers from delayed updates. These bugs undermine confidence in the bike's electronics and make it feel less premium than its competition. The GSX-S1000GT Plus tries to straddle two worlds, performance and comfort, but ends up falling short in both. Riders expecting seamless power with plush, long-distance capability often feel they've bought into a compromise that satisfies neither. It's a case study in how impressive specs and bold styling can still lead to regret. And if discomfort and tech bugs weren't enough, just wait, because the final bike on this list brings everything crashing down with record-breaking depreciation. Number 1. Honda CB 1000R. It made waves when it first launched. Sharp styling, premium fit and finish, and that unmistakable Honda badge. The CB 1000R positioned itself as the ultimate naked sport bike for riders who wanted something a little different. With minimalist bodywork, a retro-inspired tank, and high-quality details throughout, it looked like a custom machine straight off the showroom floor. At the center of the CB 1000R is a 998 cubic centimeter inline 4-cylinder engine producing 143 horsepower and 77 pound-feet of torque. It weighs in at 472 pounds wet and comes equipped with a fully adjustable 41mm inverted Showa front fork and a rear monoshock, offering a decent range of tuning. Braking duties are handled by dual 310mm discs with radial mount 4-piston calipers up front and a 256mm disc at the rear. Anti-lock braking system is standard. For a starting price of $12,999, this setup sounds competitive, but many riders report that the throttle is vague at low speeds, the suspension is punishing over imperfect roads, and the weight distribution makes tight, low-speed handling awkward at best. City riding exposes the biggest flaws. The tall gearing and sluggish low-end throttle response create a frustrating ride in urban traffic, where frequent stops and starts demand smooth power delivery. It's not just annoying, it makes the bike feel more like a chore than a thrill. While it pulls hard in the mid and upper rev ranges, riders often find themselves fighting the bike below 4,000 revolutions per minute. That imbalance makes the CB1000GR feel like a machine that never quite settles into its skin, too harsh to be comfortable, too clumsy to be nimble. Highway riding doesn't offer much relief. Being a naked bike, the CB1000IR has minimal wind protection, but even the fly screen that's supposed to deflect air fails to do much. The upright position becomes a wind tunnel above 65 miles per hour, and combined with stiff seat padding, the fatigue sets in fast. Add in real-world fuel economy in the 35 to 38 miles per gallon range, and longer rides quickly lose their appeal. It ends up feeling like a bike built for short sprints, despite being priced and styled like a versatile all-rounder. On the tech front, the CB1000R includes a full-color TFT display, ride modes, and traction control. These features check the right boxes, but the execution lacks polish. Riders frequently report issues like laggy response, poor visibility under sunlight, and occasional blank screen malfunctions. The software package doesn't feel premium, especially when compared to competitors like the Yamaha MT-09 or the Triumph Street Triple, both of which offer more refined interfaces and smoother electronics integration. Resale is where the disappointment becomes undeniable. Despite the sleek aesthetics and strong power figures, the CB1000R underperforms in the used market. Many buyers simply skip over it, either because of its awkward ergonomics, underwhelming tech, or the growing word of mouth that it's a bike people sell quickly. Owners who try to move on often encounter lowball dealership offers and painfully slow private sales. The styling, once a huge draw, has also become polarizing. If you made it this far, you're not buying blindly, and that already puts you ahead. Drop a comment if you've owned one of these bikes or got burned by something we missed. Like, subscribe, and we'll keep exposing the truth. Ride smart, not sorry.